Welcome to another episode of Live with Virginia NORML. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws and your Executive Director of Virginia NORML. As always, we're going to talk all things cannabis in the Commonwealth and answer your burning questions live. It's Friday, July 8th, and new marijuana laws took effect in Virginia 1 week ago today. Hey, friends. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Sherry. Tell me what you think about these new laws. Just drop those comments in the chat right now. Happy Friday, Ryan. Good to see you all here. You know, we did some things with cannabis policy in Virginia this week, or on cannabis policy. Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment, my friends. Hey, Brian. Good to see you. So. Yeah, one less. Daniel, that's a great way to put it. Daniel's glad for one less piece of paperwork, meaning medical cannabis registration, and one less charge. I mean, hey, Daniel, like a whole bunch of fewer charges, a whole slew of Class 6 felonies no longer in criminal code for cannabis. But also, you know, there's that new misdemeanor, and that's not great. Anyhow, but that was a hot topic of conversation at this week's Cannabis Control Authority Board of Directors meeting. These are open to the public, so you are welcome to come down and attend in person, or you can even Zoom in to these meetings as well. They always take public comments at the end. If you want to know how governmental agencies work, I encourage you to come on down or to tune in live. And of course, you can catch up on the minutes afterward if you miss them. These aren't like legislative hearings that are recorded, but you can read the minutes if you miss out. So let's talk about what happened. Hey, Wade, happy Friday to you. Mike, I really like your question. Yeah. Before we talk about Cannabis Control Authority, I want to ask Mike's question right here. So Mike says, I thought Youngkin's recriminalization sounded like jailing folks to protect retail. Does that sound right? I mean, I can see why you might think that, Mike, but we don't have retail for adult use in Virginia right now. And this is really about, I think I want to try to not be too political on this. There's really the way that we get to this is that JLARC, which is a group in the, a body that reviews policy and makes recommendations in the state of Virginia, JLARC took a look at the cannabis code and said, hey, you have a section of code that has a civil penalty at $25, and then it jumps up to a felony. And we don't write code like that in Virginia. In fact, most states don't write code like that. They have a civil penalty, then they have a misdemeanor, and they have a felony. So JLARC makes this recommendation that's like, hey, you should, maybe have a misdemeanor in between there. And this gets conflated and telephoned into. JLARC said we need a misdemeanor for marijuana, as if it was, we need to criminalize people at a lesser amount. It wasn't really the recommendation. The recommendation was, hey, this isn't typically how policy is written. And some folks glommed onto that and really took advantage of it. We're of the opinion that the 4-ounce limit, that is where the new misdemeanor begins, was chosen because that is the possession limit for botanical cannabis under the medical program, but that's not marijuana. That's botanical cannabis and has a different definition under code. Nonetheless, that's where it's at, and it's written poorly is how I will diplomatically refer to that new code section, because it took effect without the Cannabis Control Authority being able to automatically and immediately promulgate equivalent possession amounts. So everything is marijuana. So if you have brownies, those are marijuana. If you have flour, that's marijuana. If you have a vape pen, that's marijuana, right? Unless you get it from a medical dispensary in Virginia and it's in the form that it was dispensed in. If it's in its original form that it was dispensed, then it would be botanical cannabis, cannabis oil, or cannabis product. But if you get it from another state, if you grow it yourself, if you take a medical product and you make something else out of it, then it's just marijuana. And so marijuana can quickly be 4 ounces in an edible form. So this is how this all sort of spiraled into the nonsense that we are here. And remember, at the end of the day, this was entirely redundant, because possession with intent to distribute is illegal in any amount, in any place in Virginia. And so there was this notion that we needed this new misdemeanor to crack down on all these illicit sales that are happening in the Commonwealth. I don't know how making a new law will help law enforcement enforce existing laws, because possession with intent to distribute, PWID code, that already exists. That doesn't have anything to do with personal possession. Nonetheless, here we are. Thanks for your question, Mike. I really like that. Let's talk about what CCA. So, Mike, really, it was just about another way to criminalize consumers. That's what it was. If they were actually concerned with cracking down on illicit sales, they would use the existing possession with intent to distribute code, because that is where something would be charged. If someone were dealing, they would be charged with PWID. They wouldn't be charged with personal possession of 4 ounces of marijuana. Anyhow, we talked about this at the Cannabis Control Authority's board of director meetings, and they really want to get those equivalency amounts. This means the amount of an edible product, the amount of a concentrate, the amount of an infused product, whatever. They really want to get those amounts approved and promulgated so that Virginians are not being inadvertently criminalized. So we talked about that. Virginia NORML was asked to provide some feedback on that, and we did. What we sent over were the equivalency amounts that were included in proposed legislation in 2022. Now, keep in mind, these equivalency amounts, these are really about criminal penalties. So if they're enacted, it doesn't mean that when we finally get to adult use sales, that these have to be the same limits for purchase. We can always change code or regs later. But right now, there's a real need to get something on the books so that Virginians understand how much they can legally possess in public. And right now, leave the edibles at home. Yeah, Ryan, the penalties for tagging plants is much better. It was, if you forgot to tag your plants, if your tag fell off, whatever, you could be slapped with a class 6 felony. But now it's no more than a $25 civil penalty. Still not sure who's out there being the plant tag police, but still real glad we got that cleaned up. Oh, wow. We've got a viewer in Nepal. Hello to you. Oh, hey, Lori. Good to hear that you were able to get your issue resolved with Kaiser. Wild. Yeah, Mike, you can't put 4 ounces of weed on a brownie, but your brownie itself could two brownies could very easily weigh 4 ounces. So there's not some special math that they do for that brownie. The whole thing is considered marijuana if it has THC in it. And they would just weigh the whole thing and charge accordingly. So Leave the edibles at home for now. Hey, Fonz, that's a great question. Fonz mentions that prior to legalization, some Commonwealth attorneys, these are prosecutors, in Virginia said they would not prosecute simple possession, like Norfolk and Fairfax. Good memory there, friend. Do we know if they are enforcing this new possession misdemeanor? That's a great question, Fonz. In a lot of localities, marijuana possession just is not a priority. Let's take Richmond for an example. For example, it's not a priority for law enforcement in Richmond. They've got other things to do, but certainly in other localities, we're likely to see people charged with this new misdemeanor. The Crime in Virginia report came out this week, and what Cassidy probably should have put this in the script. I can open up that page real quick. Hey, friends, you can get that at vanormal.org/polls, POLLS. And you can click and read the Crime in Virginia report yourself. It's interesting that, so this is for 2021. This is what these numbers are for. In 2021, there were 2,466 marijuana arrests made in Virginia. That's an 82% decrease from 2020. So that's great news. Consistent as it has been for years now. About half of those arrests were for people age 24 or younger. And good news, the percentage of all drug arrests that were marijuana is way down. Now it's only 15%. Last year, marijuana arrests were 46% of all drug arrests. In 2017, they were 70% of all drug arrests. So, really good news here. Really good news. Those numbers are generally consistent with what we would expect to see post legalization. Typically, in a legalization state, arrests will decrease by about 90%. Keep in mind that we were in decrim in the first half of 21, and then legalization took effect on July 1. The second half was legalization. So hopefully we'll see an even greater decrease in 2022's report when that comes out in 2023. But of note, and I've messaged a few prosecutors and asked for their feedback on this. There were 24 arrests for hashish. Hashish hasn't been in code since 2020. Hashish was removed from code then. So super curious how folks were getting charged with possession of hashish when that's not a charge that exists in Virginia code. Anyone want to, phone in and let us know, by all means. So weird stuff. I mentioned that because we were talking about how cannabis laws are enforced disparately based on location and locality, and that's a great example. Why were 24 arrests made for hashish possession when all we have is marijuana in Virginia right now? Welcome, Rachel. Yeah, I don't know that the governor himself has any actual opinion or policy knowledge on cannabis. Full disclosure there. Just don't think it's on his radar, that he cares about it, or that he would have anything meaningful to say if you asked him, other than how he's going to focus on building a rip-roaring economy. However, what we do need in order for adult use retail sales to begin is we need a mandate from House leadership. So the Speaker of the House is Delegate Todd Gilbert, and he is the person who lays down the law of the land for House Republicans and says this is how it's going to go. So the way it is right now, there isn't a committee in the House of Delegates whose chair This is important. The chair determines what happens of each committee. There isn't a committee chair in the House right now that would let a retail sales bill get to the floor. So it doesn't matter if we have, a majority of votes, or it doesn't matter if a subcommittee would move it forward. What matters is the full committee through which a bill must go. If that committee chair is a no on legalization, then we cannot get it out of that committee. So what needs to happen is Speaker Gilbert has to decide if he wants to continue ceding control of cannabis in Virginia to untaxed, unregulated illicit operators, or if he wants to provide an avenue for adults in Virginia to access cannabis from regulated and licensed sources that are safe, convenient, and affordable. This is probably a pretty simple decision for Speaker Gilbert to make. And we're just waiting to see if he's gonna do that, if he's gonna lay down the law and say, listen, we're gonna do something in 2023. Unless he does that, nothing's happening, friends. It's that simple. If I can tell you any secrets about how the General Assembly works, you can take that one all the way to the bank. So. Fonz wants to know if anyone's asked the lab how they're weighing edibles. Yes, with a scale. I mean, seriously, there's no, you're talking about from a prosecutorial standpoint. That's not how it works from a prosecutorial standpoint. Right now, 4 ounces is 4 ounces. The definition is marijuana. There's nothing special about what form it's in, whether it's flour, concentrate, or a brownie. It's all marijuana. You weigh it, and that is how much the marijuana weighs. No one's taking it to the lab and running it to get a potency and then saying, well, it's got this many milligrams in it, because that's not codified and it's not in regs either. So it just doesn't matter today. Yeah, that's true. If the amount of THC in a food product is under 0.3%, it could legally be considered hemp. But that's not how it works when you're in the park getting arrested for possession. Hopefully that person has an attorney. Hopefully that attorney gets that product to a lab that can test for that can actually run a test on edibles. That's not our state forensics lab, by the way. Hopefully, but gosh, that seems like a whole lot of nonsense for someone to have to go through before it's determined whether or not that was hemp. Also, keep in mind that a brownie, if we're going to talk about brownies as an example, a brownie that has 0.3% THC in it, a brownie weighs 90 grams in the United States. I'm sad that I had to learn this. If a brownie had 0.3% THC in it, it would be 270 milligrams of THC. Right? That's a lot. So maybe let's do a better job when we think about couching things as hemp or marijuana. It's wild, man. It's wild. Percents work on plants. They don't really work on food. Hey, Kwame, good to see you. Hey, Rachel, good to see you. John, I love your comment. We're just going to drop that up there and leave it for a good minute. Hey, Lori. Yeah, Lori. So the Republican Party does have control of the legislature, and they have control of they are the statewide party, the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, right? The administration is Republican. The House of Delegates is Republican. So we're not going to have retail sales soon because of that alone, because there isn't a path forward in the House. So. Hey, Rebecca. I'm assuming you're in Virginia, Rebecca. And if you need help getting registered for the medical cannabis program, go ahead and reach out to us. We do have the ability to direct patients who need a no-cost, low-cost patient certification to providers that are able to assist them with that. So you can shoot us an email, info@virginianorml.org, and we can point you in the right direction. Patients don't have to register for the card anymore. They just have to get the written certification. So if you need help with that, by all means, just send us an email. Oh, hey, JT. Yeah, we did a great live on speaking of Nixon. This is where we're going. Speaking of Nixon, the Schaefer report came out 50 years ago this year, and we did a great live with NORML founder Keith Stropp and NORML executive director Eric Altieri on the Schaefer report on that anniversary. And Nixon's own report, the Schaefer report, said, hey, we should decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. But that's not what happened. And here we are. It really is incumbent upon Congress to end federal prohibition and get out of the way of states like Virginia, like most states that regulate cannabis for medical or adult use. But Congress has to do something. That's Congress has to do that. And this Congress is having trouble with safe banking, right? Like Safe Banking Act is the most likely cannabis related legislation to pass first. Baby steps, right? They're struggling with even that. Hey, Daniel in Western Kentucky. I hope you are connected with Kentucky NORML. They are fantastic. I'm reading your comments, friends. Hey, Daniel, I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah, Daniel says that he's seen those federally legal. He's seen these food products out there that say it's regular Delta 9 THC, but that it's 0.3%. Yeah. Yeah, like when we're talking about the Farm Bill, that's 0.3% by dry weight. I'm talking about the plant itself. Then you get states like Virginia that foolishly take that 0.3% and just apply it universally across any medium. And then they find out that a brownie has 270 milligrams of THC, and they got suckered into calling that hemp. And yeah, that's not how they weigh them for criminal prosecution unless mandated to do so. It's not the space we're in at this point in time, friends. And Fonz, while the burden of proof does fall on the Commonwealth, it kind of sucks when you get arrested and then you have to go through this whole process of being charged and prosecuted and proving your innocence in the court of law. And then even if you are found not guilty or the case is thrown out, it's null prost, you still have to pay and go back to court to have that charge expunged from your record. So the best law enforcement interaction that happens with cannabis is the one that never happens. Leave your edibles at home for now, friends. Just really make good choices. And if you need a sign like this to remind you, Sherry can help you out with that. Thanks, Sherry, for sending us this. What you thought was art and is now a prop. Oh, hey, Mike. Mike mentioned that their physician asked if cannabis was helping control their A1C. And yeah, that's entirely possible. You should check out the NORML website. Hey, you should encourage your physician not only to subscribe to NORML News so he knows what's up, but to get a copy of this, Clinical Applications for Cannabis and Cannabinoids, a review of the recent scientific literature. It's available in the NORML web store, Virginia NORML's Facebook shop, and it's available in the Kindle store on Amazon as well. Yeah, Rachel, federally legal indeed. There's some serious debate. Hey Rachel, yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. Minnesota, the state that didn't really understand what they were doing, did in fact inadvertently legalize edibles. Um, it's not the only state. I mean, Virginia did it too. You know, as long as you slap a label on it and call it hemp, um, that's what's up. Now, while we were at CCA, circling back to where we started, while we were at Cannabis Control Authority on whatever day that was, Wednesday, we the board talked about this and the new regs that VDAX has put forth that prohibit synthetic cannabinoids in food. So you buy, you see those Delta 8, Delta 10 products, THCO, THCP, all this HHC, all this crap that's out there. Totally unregulated, very rarely tested for purity, potency. If it's in food, it's not legal in Virginia any longer. Now, the enforcement mechanisms for that are very weak, I might add. So is it really protecting consumers? No. It's a weak sauce, guys, but it's out there, and I talked a little bit about that at the Cannabis Control Authority board meeting. What I thought was really excellent at CCA, in addition to Dr. Peace presenting on synthetic cannabinoids so folk could actually understand what they are and how they're made, we got to meet the three new hires for the Cannabis Control Authority, and 3 members of the Cannabis Equity Board spoke. So we not only have the board of directors, but then we have 2 advisory boards to that body. We have one for public health and we have one for equity and reinvestment. And three members of the equity board came and introduced themselves and spoke about how they haven't been able to meet since the new administration took office. Yeah. So now the next day, yesterday, Thursday, was the hemp task force meeting that was convened by the Secretary of Ag and Forestry. The Deputy Secretary, Parker Slabaugh, is chairing this task force, and they will be having 2 meetings. The first was yesterday. This was recorded, so you can watch it. There's a link posted to the recorded video on the Virginia NORML Facebook site. Go ahead and snag that for yourselves and watch. A lot of different state agencies either presented or made comment or asked questions. I thought the committee itself had really good conversation. It seemed like they were really thinking about this from a consumer safety standpoint. Then there was public comment, and that was fascinating. You can watch that too. It's in there as well. What I thought was interesting was that the focus, as you all, this will come as no surprise to you, the focus again was entirely on who gets to make money when, and not necessarily on the health and safety of Virginians. So, let's catch up on your comments here. Kwame, yeah, we have a board member at Virginia NORML, brilliant human named Sheba Williams. She's the executive director of another nonprofit called No Left Turns. She does incredible work regarding expungement, re-entry, and just all around a fantastic person. And so I do know about this, and we've talked about this, and yeah, these are just more of the sort of like backslides in progress that we're seeing with the new administration, and that's really unfortunate. We did make a lot of progress in the last 2 years of the Northam administration with criminal justice reform, and you're seeing that really just get chipped away, and that's part of it. Hey, I'm back. Wow, that was terrifying. All right. Fonz, I love your comment here, even though you say it's your last. I'm not going to hold you to that. Speaker Gilbert absolutely knows that the illicit cannabis market in Virginia is not your neighbor who, grows cannabis and sells it to his friends. He's absolutely aware that a $1.8 billion illicit market is not your friend. It's not like some just like, craft growers. He understands that it is organized crime. So don't think we haven't had those conversations. He knows, and that's a decision for him to make. Is he going to say, listen, we can't keep letting that be the regulator of cannabis in Virginia. I mean, the good news is we already regulate cannabis in Virginia. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We need to improve the model, but we don't have to spend a lot of time figuring it out. Mike, I'm glad you have this book and we'll give it to your healthcare provider. It does sound like a plot from Veep, Rachel, but instead it's just here in real life. Oh. I don't know who the she is that you're talking about, Christopher, but feel free to let me know. Daniel, I mean, Tennessee's got issues, but hey, Tennessee NORML, Daniel, is getting reorganized, so stay tuned for some work from there, from good work coming from them. Happy Friday, Humble. All right, listen, I want to tell you about this. I gotta take it out of the bag first. That sounds weird. We put some new stuff in our Facebook shop, and since we were talking about being smart and safe in public, we're really happy that we have these locking bags available in our Facebook shop now. We have, well, I guess this one's technically the case. You can see it has a combination lock on the front that you can set yourself. And these cases are smell proof. They're lined with the charcoal filter. They have all sorts of removable, it's kind of dark, but they have all sorts of removable Velcro padding and pockets just to really customize this for whatever works for you. And then to lock it up and to keep yourself, your kids and your pets safe. So check these out in the Virginia NORML Facebook shop. And then not only do we have this case that's, fully padded, it's made out of ballistic nylon, so pretty sturdy, but we also have a larger version too, and it's a bag. So you can put, there we go, okay, I unlocked it. It's a zip bag. It's also lined, Velcro shut. It's also lined with that same smell-proof fabric. but is, a lot bigger than the case. So 2 options in the Virginia NORML Facebook shop. Your purchase is a donation to Virginia NORML. So we appreciate you for that. We have so many other awesome things in the Facebook shop this week. I had someone email me and ask for Virginia NORML pins to be put in the shop, and we have literally 11 of those left. So they're in the shop right now as well. Wow, it's been a wild week. Hey, something that's kind of entertaining. I mean, it's both annoying and entertaining. There was an article that came out from 13 News Now, where they talked to a law enforcement officer who claimed that they took fewer guns off the street because of legalization. Like, legit, this guy, bless his heart, in Newport News, was claiming with this out loud voice that they took fewer guns off the street because legalization made it harder for them. Now, wisely, 13 News Now was like, hey, let's check in with another department and see what they think. And so they went over to Hampton, and Hampton police chief was like, show me the data. He very, very wisely pointed out that there's absolutely no data linking the change in marijuana law to a drop in gun seizures. And he also said, I hope you're sitting down, that there's no data correlating people who consume cannabis with people who own guns. Who knew there was this beacon of truth? The Hampton police chief. But, like, good job, Chief Talbot. In Newport News, like, Google's free, friend. Like, you don't have to make stuff up. You can just Google it. That news article is posted on Virginia NORML's Facebook for your entertainment in both directions. Totally wild. In case you missed out, look, there's great news for those who want to purchase medical cannabis in Virginia. You don't have to be a registered patient any longer. You just have to have the written certification. It's not called a prescription, it's called a written certification. It's pretty easy to get one of those. Fortunately, we allow telehealth for that here in Virginia and have for years. You can find a whole list of providers on the Virginia NORML website at vanorml.org/doctors. You can find all of the dispensaries in Virginia that are open, that are serving patients right now, that are legal, that are required to produce products under stringent regulatory oversight for consumer safety, including third-party analytical laboratory testing and labeling. You can find all that at vanorml.org/dispensaries. We also got picked up by The Street, which I thought was cool. The Street has a section called Cannabis Newsweek, and they ran a story. Only way to go is up. Governor breaks promise. Because I did point out, I feel rightly so, that Governor Youngkin's actions are in direct conflict with his campaign promise not to roll back legalization. And they're completely out of touch with the opinions of the majority of Virginians. He said on the campaign trail, or at least his campaign tweeted while he was on the campaign trail, that he wasn't going to roll back legalization, that he was going to focus on building a rip-roaring economy, as if that had anything to do with the question. But in fact, what we saw was an amendment from his administration asking for a new marijuana misdemeanor, and that's what we have now. So, hey, thanks, The Street. I'll just park that right there for a second. Kwame, I do not know anything about the organization to which you are referring. Yeah, Dwayne, lots of people are pro guns and pro cannabis. They don't really have anything to do with each other. But like, other than they're both legal in Virginia. Isn't that wild? It's just the dumbest story. Dwayne, I'm sorry that you already ordered one off Amazon. If you need more, you can get them from us. Or maybe they make great holiday gifts. Maybe you just need an extra, a backup. Awesome. Oh, guys, you're the best. Your comments are so entertaining. Oh, wow. All right. Well, this has been delightful as always. I'm sure I've forgotten 50 things to talk about, but thanks for the script, Cassidy. I appreciate you. We'll let you know when the next meetings are. If you want to find out yourself, just go to the Commonwealth calendar. Google Commonwealth calendar. That's where they're published. But if you care about these things, you should probably show up yourself and check it out, man. There's a chance we might do the show early next week. So make sure you're following us on Facebook so you know when it's going to happen. Make sure you follow, like, and if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. You're welcome, Ashley. Thanks for joining us. Glad to see you here. Glad to see you here, JT. Dwayne, always a pleasure. Mike, thanks for stopping by. Hey, I look forward to talking with you all next week. Everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you back here soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.